What is cracking? How you doing? I'm Devin Stanford. I am here. We are the Good Kraken podcast. I am joined by the lovely and awesome Genesee Gabrielle of the Let's Get Bitchin' podcast. How are you doing?
I am doing really well. I'm so excited to be here today.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I'm stoked you're here. We are going to talk about a lot of stuff today. Because we're Marvel geeks, so it's going to be great. Genesee, if you could do something and just tell all the beautiful people we have out there who you are, what you do, what you're about, and where to follow you.
Absolutely. I'm Genesee Gabrielle. I am the host of the Let's Get Bitchin' podcast. We are all about queering media. It's Pride Month, and I'm in full gay mode.
Hell fucking yeah.
Which is really just, I'm like this all the time, but then June comes around and everybody's like, oh, it really was gay this whole time. And I'm like, yeah, it was.
Yeah, I know, a big surprise, right?
Surprise! And so our podcast is really just a spot for myself and my queer friends and whatnot to share different experiences with how we interact with different medias, and to sometimes get to take a critical take on canonically queer media and then media that is not, and getting to kind of parse through with different lens and unpack different things and why is media created a certain way and not a certain other, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, you can find us on Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Apple. We're all over the place.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah, I need to start tuning in, especially after our last discussion on Captain America and Winter Soldier. Now, you know what I'm saying? If people don't know, they're way too behind by now. We're way past that.
Yeah. You're not paying attention.
Exactly.
Yeah, for real.
Exactly. But we're not going to be talking about Captain America or the Winter Soldier today. Well, maybe later. We might reference it. But
Possibly.
We're going to be talking about... Exactly. We're going to be talking about movie theaters maybe making a comeback, Doctor Strange being spooky as all hell, which I am here for, and Loki maybe just being the greatest of all time. And we got so much more to talk about. Because this is Good Kraken. It's a podcast, a show for nerdy, marginalized people giving you the video game and pop media news, reviews, discussions that you want to hear every Tuesday at 7 p.m. and Saturday at 1 p.m. That doesn't really count today. We did a later podcast. We had some things come up. It's fine. If you're watching live, you can submit questions and topics at tinyurl.com/GK submissions to be a part of the show. If you are having a good time so far, watch us record the show live and ad free by following us and subscribing right here at twitch.tv/Good Kraken Show. If you have Amazon Prime, you also have Twitch Prime. We would love for you to give that to us to help us keep pushing content out there for all of you listening or watching at home. If you've emptied your pockets for the latest and greatest in entertainment, that's totally fine. You can catch our episodes on our podcast service of your choice at 8 a.m. the following day. But you can also support us by going to our YouTube channel by clicking the link in the About Me section that's right below us, right down there, and of our Twitch page, and clicking that beautiful bell and big red button, or by subscribing to our podcast channel by searching Good Kraken with an exclamation point and leaving a review there. All right, just a few things and some planner work to go over. Our GK Community Game Night is up as a VOD on our Twitch channel right now. We played a ton of Knockout City this last Thursday, and we decided to jump straight into ranked, and boy, did we get some wins. Other than that, please go watch our Tuesday episode with Faven over on YouTube by clicking the link in the About section. Faven is awesome. He's a content creator. He streams on Twitch, and he is also a pretty fantastic writer, and we're definitely looking forward to seeing what he has coming out. All right, so it is time for some news. Are you ready, Genesee?
Oh, yes.
Perfect. I am going to start off here. So, IMAX CEO predicts that there will be a quick return to the movie theater and that we will start seeing a financial recovery here. This is coming straight from Jeff Nelson over at Screen Rant. IMAX CEO Richard Gelfond anticipates that theaters in the U.S. will recover quickly due to the upcoming summer season. The COVID-19 pandemic took a large toll on movie theaters around the world. While locations in some countries opened quicker than others, many theaters across the United States remained closed. In turn, many studio release dates were pushed, and others simply went to streaming services by default, which I love that, by the way. Which allowed moviegoers to enjoy new films from the comfort and safety of their own home. While mask wearing is still required in many locations, movie theaters have opened and are expanding capacity. I actually went and saw A Quiet Place 2 today. A massive disruption for the film industry simultaneously impacted other companies that relied on seats being filled in theaters. IMAX is one of the premium formats that feature bigger picture and sound. Although the company faced serious trouble by the closures after audience had a taste of being able to watch movies from home, some industry players wondered if people will ever want to go back to a theater in a post-pandemic world. Every technological or industry trend leads to a lot of chatter that theaters are supposedly going to go away. Yet they never do. The pandemic hit the theater industry hard, which resulted in some specific theater chains and independent locations to have to close their doors. Although there is no indication that the movie theaters as a whole are going anywhere, A Quiet Place Part 2 performed well at the box office, and there are still a plethora of big releases left to go this year. As vaccination numbers increase and the mask requirements are dropped, the theaters will be able to fill back to capacity. The convenience of being able to watch the newest movies at home is great, although nothing can truly replace the theater experience that makes film so special. Genesee, after today, I went and saw A Quiet Place 2. I sat in reclining, comfy leather chairs at Eastport Plaza today. I had my large popcorn, which was only $4. $4 for a large popcorn. And $4 for a large drink. It was fantastic. I had a good time. That movie is good. I see why it's doing well in the box office. The first one was fantastic. And the most I can say without spoiling anything, because that movie just goes in a direction that you really don't expect, it has a cold ending, just like the first one. And I love it. Okay. How about you?
That sounds amazing. Movie theaters. The second I saw this on our agenda for today, I lost my shit. We just went to the movies theaters last week. We saw In the Heights, which is also available on HBO Max. So the HBO Max has been doing a thing that it's releasing like their movies for like a month on HBO Max, and then they're taking it off, which I didn't know that with Wonder Woman 1984, and so I didn't watch it on HBO Max, and then it disappeared. I was like, well, whoops.
Well, to be fair, you didn't miss anything with 84.
I actually recently saw that in a second run theater as well. I saw that at OMSI. Actually, okay. OMSI has a second run movie theater, a well-known fact.
Okay.
And it was not good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But In the Heights was phenomenal. And it was so nice to be back in a theater. Can you hear my dog?
A little bit. It's not that bad, but I can a little bit. But, I've heard really good things.
It's annoying. Tell me.
Oh, definitely. I'll let you know if our sound gets a little off. I will say this though, I've seen really good things about In the Heights. It's got a really good review score. I can't remember the exact number, but I've been seeing it all over the place lately. And I'm not much of a musical movie type of person myself because I'm a fantasy hardcore action stan. I love stuff. I got ADD. Yeah. What can I say? But I've been seeing a lot about that. The movie that I did go see in theaters, right when theaters actually started opening up, I went and saw Godzilla versus Kong. and I saw that at the McMiniman's Theater too. So,
ooh, I love McMiniman's theaters.
Yeah,
they're fun.
Baghdad especially.
That's my favorite.
Yeah,
that's actually probably my favorite Portland theater, to be honest.
You know
I
what?
love it there.
I just started getting some delay between your sound and video. Could you pop out and come back in and see if it syncs back up real quick?
Yeah. So I just press disconnect.
Yeah, and then
Is that right?
Yeah, and then just click on it again. Perfect.
Did it work?
You are here. We just need some video, and I got you back. Let's see.
Yay.
Oh, yes, it is perfectly synced now. You know, sometimes these things happen. It's technology. It's weird, right?
That they do.
Yeah. But yeah, do you plan on seeing any other movies? Is there anything coming out that you plan on going and seeing?
Yes. So the first one that I can think of is actually going to be Black Widow because it comes out a few days before my birthday.
Ooh, happy early birthday.
Thank you. My best friend and I actually share a birthday, and so I'll be visiting him in Salt Lake this year for our birthday. And I'm his movie-going buddy, which really sucks with us being long-distance best friends. Because when we're not together, he doesn't have anyone to go to the movies with.
Oh, dang. That's sad. I understand that.
That's sad.
I
know.
But you know what? It's awesome that you're going to be able to do that, though, and experience that movie together. I'm torn. I want to go see that movie in theater. Of course, I just went to the movie theater today.
Yeah.
But also the prospect of just being able to go right behind me and watch it, you know, is also nice. When I was walking through the theater today, I saw a poster for Jordan Peele's Candyman. So I'm actually kind of excited to see where that goes, you know, because as a kid, I was terrified of that movie, but watched that movie all the time. So
that's fair. I'm not a horror person, so I'll leave that to you.
Yeah, no problem. Me and my partner love to watch horror movies. We actually we marathoned all the Conjuring movies, including like the Annabelle and La Llorona and The Nun. We marathoned all those leading up to the newest movie that just came out. So
oh, nice. You know, it's funny because I say I'm not a horror person, and I'm not. I don't watch horror movies. But what I did do is back when I lived in the Inland Empire in California, I went to Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios. And I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's a time. So they basically bring their horror movies to life. So La Llorona, all of those, they make into like these huge mazes, and they have like actors doing crazy stuff. When The Walking Dead was out, I went to it one year when The Walking Dead was out. So zombies would like chase you on the back lots. Coolest thing. That
sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I saw pictures years ago when the Silent Hill movies were coming out, and they made it look all like Silent Hill and had like Pyramid Head and all that stuff. Like, I always wanted to experience that myself.
Saw him.
You did?
It was scary.
Oh my goodness.
I did. It was freaky. And they had them on stilts. Running around the amusement park.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing though. Like, it's definitely something I want to experience. Me and my partner were actually just talking about going down to Universal possibly at the end of October. We'll see. All right. Well, Genesee, do you want to get us on our next story here?
I do. I would love nothing more. Okay. Doctor Strange 2 is scarier since Sam Raimi replaced original director Adam Bentz. Doctor Strange 2 will be scarier because Sam Raimi replaced the original director Scott Derrickson, according to Michael Waldron. It's been 5 years since Doctor Strange's first solo outing in 2016, and Benedict Cumberbatch will be returning to his role as the Sorcerer Supreme in the 2022 sequel, officially titled Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. The long layoff between films is, of course, due to the coronavirus pandemic, along with a few other speed bumps that slowed down development. Scott Derrickson, who wrote and directed the first film, was set to return for the sequel, but left the project early on due to creative differences. Marvel then brought the Spider-Man trilogy director and horror aficionado, Sam Raimi, on board to go along with Michael Waldron as head writer, who now serves the same role on Loki. Along with the return of its titular surgeon-turned-sorcerer, Doctor Strange 2 will catch up with Elizabeth Olsen's character Scarlet Witch after the events of WandaVision, though it is currently unclear how she will tie into the sequel's plot. Now, during an appearance on the Friends from Work podcast, Loki and Doctor Strange 2's head writer Michael Waldron is opening up about the experience of crafting the sequel along with Sam Raimi. Waldron admits that the first Doctor Strange wasn't a horror movie, but it did have a certain spookiness throughout it, which he wanted to build on for the sequel, especially since he was working with such a prolific horror director in Raimi. With the additional time afforded to them due to pandemic-related delays, Waldron and his co-writer, Jade Bartlett, were able to nudge the sequel in a slightly scarier direction. Previously, Waldron said he and Raimi had to start completely from scratch when they took over the project from Derrickson. This implies that Doctor Strange 2 will be entirely their own work, though Waldron did admit they built off the slightly spooky foundation that Derrickson laid in the first film, such as, these words are going to be hard.
Ejiofor's Mordo?
Yeah.
Chiwetel
Yes.
Ejiofor's? Yes, I think that's how you say that.
We'll go with that.
Yeah. Sorry,
We'll
my
return
apologies.
for the sequel.
Perfect.
Mine too. I couldn't.
So you obviously
Yeah.
saw Doctor Strange, right? Of course.
Clearly. I remember when the trailer dropped for that, I was watching it in a movie theater for the first time, and I hadn't heard anything about Doctor Strange before that. But I mean, I was sitting with my dad in the movie theater, who's like a huge Marvel person. He is the reason I am who I am today. And he whispers to me, he's like, this is going to be Doctor Strange. And it's like nothing has come on, no words. It's just like, it was like lightning or something, you know, the very beginning of the trailer. And I said, you know who would make a great Doctor Strange? Benedict Cumberbatch. And then Benedict Cumberbatch's face comes onto the screen. And I was like, okay, all right. I see. So after that, I was all on board. I love Benedict Cumberbatch. Doctor Strange is such a cool superhero, and to have him played by someone who does like genius arrogance so well, 10 out of 10.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Casting for that.
Exactly. Benedict Cumberbatch is like the perfect casting choice for Doctor Strange. It's like casting Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. You know what I mean? Like it's just it's not. Those characters are not too far away just how those actors act in real life. You know what I mean? So it's like they literally are themselves, essentially. True. And like I get a little bit of that from Tom Holland too. Like he's genuinely excited to be Spider-Man, you know?
That is why he makes such a good Spider-Man.
Yeah, yeah. And
it's because he's the little kid that's coming into the party.
Exactly. Or Tom Hiddleston as Loki. Like, come on. Like, these are just spot on, and that they've done a great job. We've seen Elizabeth Olsen grow into Scarlet Witch, and really, like, there's been such a transition in her character acting, too, from when we see her for the first time in Age of Ultron to the end of WandaVision. Like, even throughout WandaVision as a show, too. It was really cool to see that, and it's cool to see these characters be brought to life and stuff. I'm really interested to see what Sam's going to bring to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I really hope I get some like Drag Me to Hell kind of vibes. You know what I'm saying? Like I loved that movie.
I think it has to, especially after the post-credits scene of WandaVision. That scene is very spooky. And I mean, the end of WandaVision was very intense.
Mm-hmm.
And it had a lot of really spectacular magical elements to it, but it didn't truly feel spooky. Well, that second to last episode was spooky as shit.
Yeah.
When they were in her lair.
Yeah. But
was something.
The spook... Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, so I think that I'm really picturing that last post-credit scene from WandaVision really being brought into the Multiverse of Madness. I think that's going to be a big part of the vibes, because we do know she is going to be a pretty important part of the movie, it seems like.
Yeah, and, you know, as what we've seen of Loki so far, too, that last episode, oh boy, did that just, like, open up a whole new world of possibilities and all the different variants and everything. So, with that in mind, that variant of Quicksilver we saw in WandaVision, we can see a real Quicksilver coming out of this, you know what I'm saying? So it finally opened those doors for us to see X-Men and Fantastic Four, hopefully Doctor Doom, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. I'm excited, and
It also...
Go ahead. Sorry.
I think we might be having a little bit of a delay again.
We are, but I think we gotta roll with it.
I'm about it. No, I'm so excited too, and I think that there are so many things with this fourth phase that are starting to make sense the further we get into it, as they always do. One thing that I keep having in the back of my mind is Tom Holland's contract, because he is only on contract for one more movie. Yeah. And I mean, Marvel is really banking on him being around for more than that. They really want him to step into Iron Man's shoes. And that would be wonderful, and I would love that, but we're battling with Sony here, so that just might not be in the cards. And so them bringing in this variant factor makes it so that maybe that could be a means to solve their Sony dilemma. You know, like it might mean that we have to say goodbye to that Spider-Man.
Yeah, I hope not, and
replace it with something else.
Yeah, I hope not, because it seems like Sony is trying to set up their own MCU off of the Spider-Man property too, with Venom and Carnage and Morbius, and we got Kane coming out, and you know, but the thing is, I feel Sony doesn't like to play nice with anybody. They prove it with game consoles, they've proved it with publishing and movies. I'm hoping that Disney is willing to put up with it and keep it going and find a way to negotiate Tom staying around.
Honestly, I think Sony really just needs to take Disney's money. It's really that simple. I mean, they've had Spider-Man for so long, and they have not done many notable things with it. Into the Spider-Verse.
All right. Hold on, real quick. Okay, so a couple of things here. First off,
did I make you mad?
Fucking animals over here. All right. Here's the deal. Okay, there is no fucking way that Sony isn't gonna take Marvel's money. All right, there's no goddamn way.
Last time they didn't want to. Last time those bastards almost didn't. Do you not remember?
I know, and I wish it was the case, but like, listen, there's like Marvel's been handing out fucking money like crazy as far as things are concerned it comes to the MCU and wanting to get their properties and get all the things that they want to get. There's no fucking way that they're going to be stupid enough to let all of this just slip out of their fingers when they have this much of a fan base that are coming in here and spending their money. Even fucking Venom sold well. Surprise! And that movie was a fucking dumpster fire. Okay, and there's like no fucking way that they're gonna miss the opportunity to buy more rights and more titles off of more properties that are coming from the Marvel universe. There's no goddamn way.
Anyways, moving on and continuing our Marvel talk. Loki is the most watched Disney Plus premiere to date, and this comes straight from J. Kim Murphy over at IGN. While he's a long way from Asgard now, it seems that the God of Mischief has found a new throne. Disney CEO Bob Chapek has announced that Loki had, quote, the most watched premiere on Disney Plus during its opening week. End quote. Excuse me. While that achievement is impressive, it comes with the caveat that Disney did not release any official numbers for the show's viewership. Last month, the studio revealed that Disney Plus has grown beyond 103 million subscribers. That's a lot of money.
A lot of money.
Yeah. Disney released a similar statement following the premiere of its last Marvel series, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, saying that the show drew a larger audience than both WandaVision and Season 2 of The Mandalorian without providing exact figures. While Loki's premiere numbers seem to top these other series, it is impossible to make a detailed comparison without official numbers. Additionally, while Loki's first episode drew a larger audience, it is unknown if the Marvel series has impacted ongoing engagement with the Disney Plus library. For example, the popularity of The Mandalorian spurred a spike in viewership for the Star Wars The Clone Wars. At the moment, it is not known if Loki's premiere has led to Disney Plus users discovering other content other than the show that we're talking about. So, are you surprised at all?
Not really. I'm not. First of all, I'm not surprised that Marvel is bringing in a lot of viewership to Disney Plus. That doesn't surprise me a bit. When I joined Disney Plus, Marvel and Star Wars were the two biggest ones. I end up watching a lot of Pixar, but I did come for Marvel. I am a little. What I am surprised about by Loki is that I'm actually engaged with it. Yeah. I am actually excited for the next episode to come out. I'm going to be honest with you. This is a bit of a contentious statement, but I make those a lot, so whatever. I'm not a fan of Loki. Not the show, but the character. I've never liked Loki much. The character. Yeah. I mean, especially when you think about it in the grand scheme of MCU, he's never been that interesting to me. I'm like, you're really just a douchey dude who pranks people. Yeah. Which ends up in a lot of people dying. Yeah. Like, that's not very interesting to me. And so I was a little out. I mean, I knew I was going to watch the series. That wasn't a question. I'm always going to watch the Marvel thing. You know, because if you don't, you're going to be totally lost and you're not going to know what's going on. So I knew I was going to watch it, but I was surprised when I started watching it and I was like, oh, this is actually interesting. I'm actually interested in a lot of the characters in it after the last episode. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. The ending of that last episode
that was sexy.
Was just phenomenal. I mean, we're going to keep it spoiler free, you know, so we're not going to reveal anything. But that ending was awesome. Just that choice he had to make right there in that moment. And I'll be honest with you, I did not like Loki either up until I saw Thor Ragnarok. That was the moment because he was a little bit more witty in that movie compared to the other movies he's been. He was kind of like generic bad guy for a long time, you know. But now, like, especially, and you see some of like where Loki is with himself and his realization, you know, and his I guess we can say somewhat humility because he kind of knows his place a little bit more now after some of those reveals in that first episode, you know?
Right.
You see a little bit of that
in Thor Ragnarok. Going into it. I think that's an excellent point. And that's something, too, because when we're coming into this, he's not the Loki that we've seen, right? He's not the full progression of Loki that has made all of these mistakes and learned and been murdered. Yeah. He's a much younger version of Loki. And when Loki died, I wasn't, like, super upset, but I was kind of like, wow, he was just becoming likable. You know?
Exactly.
Like, I was just starting to root for this guy. Yeah. I didn't want him to die this time.
Yeah, like
he died.
Yeah, he becomes a hero by the end of Ragnarok. You know? So
yeah, or it's the beginning of Infinity War, right?
That's when he dies, yeah.
That's when he dies, yeah. And that I feel like was the really culminative moment. because he really did sacrifice himself, and that's a huge deal. So like coming into this, I was like, you're so much younger. You were absolutely like, there's a little fly.
Oh, you're good.
You were not enjoyable at all.
Yeah.
You were not enjoyable at all in this movie. And now we're going to have a whole series with you at this age. But they are bringing in different things to make it make sense and to kind of allow him to get that character development that he got in before, but a lot faster. So I'm pumped for the rest of it. How did you feel about the numbers? Were you surprised at all?
The numbers? Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, Kevin Feige came out before the show aired, and he said that Loki was going to be one of the most important MCU pieces to date. And I don't think he was lying. I did, however, think he was lying when he said Falcon and Winter Soldier wasn't going to have any big reveal MCU things, because as we saw with that, we got quite a bit there. But, you know...
so much.
Like, with Loki, there's so much they can introduce, and they've showed so much of what is possible already just within those 2 episodes. And the other thing I want to state, Owen Wilson. This is one of his best roles he's ever had. Ever.
Yes. Owen Wilson always surprises me. Mm-hmm. Especially because he's in a lot of movies that are like a brand of comedy that I don't totally love. You know, he's like, isn't he in like Dude, I Lost My Car?
No, I don't think he is in that.
Is that him? Or he's in something really similar to that? He's
in a lot of dumb
whenever
movies.
I think of him, I think of that brand of comedy.
Yeah, think like he's in Wedding Crashers.
Yes.
Drillbit Taylor.
Yeah. Which, like, you know, those are fun. Those are a thing to watch. Like, they make me laugh. I'm not gonna lie. But then you see him in something like this, and you're like, well, shit. What have you been doing this whole time? Like, why were you making these awful jokes in these mediocre movies when you were doing this?
Yeah, I think all of that has kind of led up to this. I will say one movie that he is in that you kind of see more of his serious side, but it is a comedy still, is You, Me, and Dupree, when he has the dog, the little lab.
Oh,
it's
I don't think I've seen that one.
It's a little heartwarming movie. It'll hit you right in the feels, especially since you have a dog as well, you know. It's an older movie. I think it's like 10 years old, maybe a little bit.
Okay.
Somewhere around there. I'd have to look that up. I don't care about fact checking that one right now, but definitely recommend it. But like him as Mobius, and is so interesting, and seeing the own development that Mobius is starting to have throughout it, and you can tell that he wants to help Loki. You know, he knows because he studied Loki, so he knows where Loki goes with his life, and he's trying to put Loki in that spot sooner. But if you think about it, that kind of fights the own TVA like whole thing, like leave everything in the timeline the way it is. Just him by doing that, he's altering that whole thing, you know, and kind of fighting against their own cause. And you kind of see that, you already see that push where he's starting to kind of question it a little bit, just the whole thing. And I'm excited to see where that goes. So
I am too. I also love a good, like, bureaucrat. I love a good bureaucrat. Like, have you seen the movie Zootopia? The cartoon?
Yes, and it's been a very long time, but yeah.
There's a scene where they go to the DMV, and there's a sloth that is like taking in like the paperwork, and the sloth takes forever to take the paperwork. And I love the sloth bureaucrat. Like, that just warms my heart. And I feel like the what's it called, the TVA, it radiates that for me. Like, the ridiculousness of bureaucracy in a fantastical setting is everything that I want. Like, yes, please show me your files on this variant and like show me the paperwork for deleting someone.
Yeah.
Like my master's in public administration is screaming. I'm like, yes. So I love Mobius because he really, there's like this underlying theme, which is so not important to anyone who is not like a public administration nerd, of public service, right? Because Mobius is struggling with what you're talking about, is like this kind of like, okay, I have to operate within the bounds of my organization, but at the same time, there is like a greater good that we're talking about. And I'm questioning whether the standards and expectations of my administration are getting in the way of promoting what is best for the universe, which is a huge problem in the public sector. It's a huge thing. And I just love that.
Yeah, no, it kind of falls in line with that whole part where Loki is in the quote unquote library. You never really find out what it is, but he's like, I want the files on the existence of time. That's classified. It's just like over and over. That's classified. But anyways, we are going to definitely talk more about Loki when that show's over. I know we're going to have to do another episode, but moving forward.
Oh, I know. I'm ready.
Same. Outside of Loki, like, what are some things you've been watching? Like, have you played any games at all? Is there anything going on?
Oh, honey.
Like movies, TV shows? What's tickling your fancy?
I'll answer the game question first because that'll be shorter. My sister-in-law has been playing this game that she like downloaded a Steam account for, and she and I are very similar. So like you can imagine me being like, I had to download Steam to get this game, and I will, because she keeps telling me, she's like, Genesee, you're gonna love this game. I think it's called Stardew Valley.
Oh yeah,
it's a farming game, and apparently, yeah. Have you heard of it? She's like texts me about it, and like every time I see her, she's like, Genesee, she got to a point where she was allowed to pick a spouse for her farmer, so she got to have a wife. And she has these little lesbians on her little farm, and they have cows and sheep and shit. And so I'm going to play that, but I'm not going to play it until I'm ready to kiss my life goodbye.
Yeah, you can ask Ernell about that.
There's
one
that
sometime.
on the horizon.
Ernell's definitely played a lot of that. I have never really got into Stardew Valley, but I have a ton of friends that are into Stardew Valley. And that game has reviewed extremely well over time, and I believe it's out on like everything. You can get it on your phone. You can get it. Yeah. Go to the App Store, look it up. You can just get it on your phone. You don't even need to play it on your computer. You got an iPad, play it on your iPad.
Right.
Yeah. So
I do.
Yeah.
That might happen.
Yeah.
Shit.
Then you can actually just lay in bed and play.
When my fiance doesn't like talk to me. Yeah. No, and my fiance too, she was like, oh no, please don't get that game. You won't talk to me for like 4 days. I'm like, I know. I'm waiting until until I'm prepared, and no one's gonna see me for days. I'm just gonna play this and listen to Sour by Olivia Rodrigo.
Man, that record actually.
But I've been watching a shit ton of stuff.
Yeah.
It slaps, right?
Yeah. Like it's 10 out of 10 banger.
There are a few things in this world. 10 out of 10 banger. There are so few things in this world, especially around music, that I feel like most people are like, oh wow, that was amazing. Olivia Rodrigo did it. I mean, especially because it's got whatever it has something for everybody. It has like the sad, like favorite crime, driver's license, but then it also has Good For You and Traitor. And Brutal. Yeah. It's the shit.
Yeah, it's really good. I've only listened to it maybe once all the way through, but yes, it is good. It is definitely good. What have you been watching?
I've listened to it at least 50 times. I've been watching a lot of things. So, serious note, a little bit sad. My father-in-law passed away a few weeks ago, Naomi's dad. So we've actually been having a really difficult time in our household. And I cope with things through media. That's always been the case. And so I, over the last few weeks, have just kind of like thrown myself into a bunch of shows, bunch of movies, bunch of books. I've finished like 2 books in the last 3 weeks, and I already started another one today, which is like, I rarely do because it takes a lot of energy for me to read. So I read Cemetery Boys, and then I've just finished Mr. Impossible today, which is Mr. Impossible is the second book in a trilogy. It's called the Dreamers Trilogy, and it's actually a spin-off series from the Raven Cycle, which is I don't know if you're into reading, but like if you are, it's a really cool kind of like fantasy magic-y dreaming book series, and there are two series that go together, and they're really, really cool and really engaging. So I finished the second book today, and I'm still wrecked. I watched all 3 seasons of On My Block like 3 times.
Oh man,
I love that show now.
I've never watched On My Block.
Have you watched that show? I loved it, especially because, so I don't know if you're familiar with it at all, but On My Block is actually about, it takes place in a city. I'm pretty sure they made the city up, but they call it Free Ridge, which is supposed to be a part of LA. And so I grew up in the Inland Empire, which is like about an hour-ish away from Los Angeles. So we have a lot of similarities to different parts of LA. Very different. We're a lot more of a suburb, but we still are. We have a lot of things that branch off from LA. And so On My Block unpacks a lot of the difficulties around like coming of age and being a teenager in an environment that is, has a lot of a high prevalence of gangs and like very difficult family dynamics going on, lots of different things, a lot of working class stuff. And so it follows this close group of teenage friends as they're navigating a lot of really difficult things in their environment. And I loved it. I loved that show. So
I'll
I
have to check it out.
I watched Ginny and Georgia. Please let me know if you do, because I'm a big fan. They're planning to end, which I really appreciate. I love it when a show plans to end and you get like a true final season. So their 4th season will be coming out sometime this year.
Is it on any what streaming service is it on?
It is a Netflix original.
Oh, it is? Okay.
I've been really into the Netflix originals. Those are a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I've also been rewatching Atypical.
I watched.
But the finals.
Sorry, there's a slight delay still. I was just gonna say I watched the first 2 seasons of Atypical actually, so that's a good show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It is a great show. Yeah, and the 4th season comes out July 9th.
Okay.
Also right before my birthday.
Ooh.
So that week I just won't be a person. I'm just gonna eat a lot of cake and watch a lot of things.
Hey, and more power to you. Live it up, Queen. So.
Right. What about you? What have you been watching?
So I just came back from the movie theater and saw A Quiet Place 2 like an hour before we sat down together. God damn, that movie is good. It shows kind of the first day when it starts. It kind of goes back and does that, and then it kind of goes back to. I mean, you see it in the trailer. It goes back to where they are after the events of the first movie as well. It's got some jump scares in it, of course. Scary movie. But that whole world is so cool to me because I'm fascinated with like monster movies. Like I love Cloverfield. It's completely unexplained how that happens in that original movie. But it's just you kind of see how terrified the people are because they have no idea what's going on, and you have no idea what's going on. It's not like watching, you know, Alien or something like that, or Predator, where you have an idea of what's going on because it gives a lot of backstory. It's just those people's experiences dealing with what they're dealing with. You know what I'm saying? And that movie is. It will make you cry. It's definitely family oriented and relationship oriented, and there is some moments in it. So that was good. Outside of that, I've been watching The Bad Batch. So yeah, and I am liking it. I'm still waiting to see where that show ends up really going, you know, because a lot of it is really just escaping from the Empire and going day to day. You know what I'm saying? Because it's based right after Order 66 is executed in Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. So I'm stoked to see where that goes. Other than that, I've been playing a lot of video games too. Most notably, I dove back into DayZ, which is a survival game where you actually have to drink water and eat food, and on the server I play on, you have to even sleep. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's post-apocalyptic zombie type of game. It's based in like Eastern Europe. You're on a server and there's like 40 other people on the server too, so you have interactions, and if you die, you lose everything and have to start over. So yeah, so I've been doing
That's
that
fun.
And I've been playing a lot of Knockout City, which is a team deathmatch dodgeball game, and that's been really fun actually. And they're actually doing a big Pride celebration as well in that, just like with emblems and like skins and stuff. But I did actually play Halo, the Master Chief Collection, which is like the remastered version of all the old games that have come out over time. And I played that with some friends, and even they have a bunch of Pride centered like skins and emblems and stuff too, which is really cool. So we were doing a big stream the other day together, and that was really, really fun. Other than that, that's about all I've been doing. So I'd like to move to our next segment, which is all about you. And Ernell put a note in here. He said he loves you tons. And I want to say that I love you tons, and that we love you tons. So moving forth, Genesee, why did you start podcasting? What got you into it? Like what pulled you in? What was the idea that roped you into it?
First of all, I love you both tons, and I saw his note in the notes, and I texted my fiance. I was like, Naomi, I can't handle emotion. Anyhow, I'm very excited to be here.
Hell yeah, we're excited.
But as for why I got into podcasting, it's actually kind of I don't know. I think it really comes down to kind of like how I make decisions. And I kind of make decisions all at once. Like I am a planner, and I like to have information, and I like to make like pro and con lists and cost benefit analysis and all of those things. But when it comes down to like actually taking the plunge to do something, it's pretty quick for me. So I was somewhat freshly off of graduating out of my master's. I had just started my business, and I had all of this like creative energy running through me, and I was thinking a lot about branding and who I am and what I enjoy doing and what I don't enjoy doing, and yada yada yada. And a lot of my friends were talking to me about like how I talk about movies and how I talk about music and how I talk about Taylor Swift. And they were like, you have so many, like, they were like, no, like so few people will like critically analyze Taylor Swift lyrics for fun, Genesee. Like that's a skill. And like, it would be super cool if you shared that with people. And I was hanging out with my sister one day, and she was watching this podcast that she watches, and they were doing a Bachelor recap, and she was like, Genesee, you should do this. Like, you would do great at reactions. Like, you have like super crazy, wild reactions. And so there were just kind of a few things that were like tumbling through my mind. And then I was like, fuck it. I should make a goddamn podcast and give all of my hot takes and feelings and reactions to all of the shit I watch. Because in any given week, I watch at least, recently I've been watching like 2 or 3 TV shows a week and at least 3 movies. And listening to music. I don't even know how I have time for this. Like, I sleep 8 hours a night, and I run a business, and I have a fiance, and somehow I find time to watch all of this shit. I don't know.
I don't know how.
But yeah, so that's why.
I mean, it's awesome. I don't know how you get 8 hours of sleep because I do this podcast, stream, play video games, watch movies. Oh, and I play music, and I work a lot. So yeah, I usually get like 5 or 6 hours of sleep on a normal night. So,
well, see, it's probably the music. Like, I don't do the music part,
yeah,
so that I get like a few extra hours of sleep where you play music.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Maybe I gotta evaluate my priorities. But let's be real. You can take the music away from me, but you can't take me from the music. Anyways, this isn't about me. So, So one thing I'm always curious about, because I've seen a lot of friends, a lot of associates, how to deal with this. You know, what are tactics that you've taken up to help you live your life in peace while we have to deal with a bunch of fucking assholes, especially the ones that come down from Vancouver? What do you do? And please tell the world.
I love that subtle diss at Vancouver. I honestly, I don't really know. I have this memory. I was talking with my mom about it recently, of being in high school, and I was super involved in high school. I did ASB and dance team and all the shit. And I was also super fucking awkward. Like, when people hear all those things and they're like, oh, you were on the dance team, you were probably popular. I was like, no, I was a weird little shit. But also, I went to an all-academic high school. Dance was the only sport that we had. We did not have any other sports. And we were all a bunch of little weirdos. And I remember one time we were getting ready for an ASB rally, and we were getting ready, and someone was wearing this ridiculous costume, and they were like, well, Genesee, like, what do I do if, like, people make fun of me, or like, what if I look stupid? And I was like, you know what, if you look stupid, you don't have to look at you. That's everybody else's problem. It's not yours. Like, you aren't going to be looking in the mirror the whole time, so who cares if you look stupid? And I don't know why or how I came up with that mentality, but that's really been the vibes that I roll with since then, is that I think that it's really important to just get to a spot where you're comfortable with yourself and you're like, yeah, I'm weird and people might say shit about me and people might not like the way that I am. And that's okay, because I'm at peace with that, and that's what it is. I also think that there's a level to that of like being able to recognize where we make mistakes and where we do wrong, versus people just being assholes.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, also my little brother, one of my little brothers has a quote, that he told my mom that made her like kind of upset, but now she's like, oh, I feel like this is our family motto. And he said that my parents raised 3 children who are all self-conscious, but also don't give a fuck what people think about them.
Yeah.
And I love that, because I think there's something to that. We all have a self-conscious element to us. Like, we all worry when people say shit about us or to us or whatever, and when people are rude to us or whatever, you know? But at the end of the day, you can just not give a fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? And they can think what they're going to think, and you can just be you.
Yeah, and I think we all have to somewhat develop a little bit. I'd like myself, like, I have like some anxiety and self-esteem, and it could be the stupidest thing. Like, for me, it's be like, oh man, I'm covered in dog hair, I have to lint roll myself. Like, I literally dealt with that last night, and like my girlfriend was just straight up like, we're just gonna go meet up with my parents. And I'm just like, you know what I mean? It's just, you know, just little things like that. But you know, it's so important, you know, that just being able to shut the assholes away, you know what I'm saying, is regardless of what it is, regardless of it's your life, it's a movie, it's a TV show, game, whatever it is, there's always going to be somebody who wants to be an asshole and tell you how to live your life, what not to do, what to do. Hey, you should do this instead. You know what I mean? Or, hey, I don't like you because of that thing, you know? And it's important to be able to recognize that they're just being an asshole, you know? And it's not okay by any means, but I mean, I'm looking forward to a point, and I hope that we see this in our lifetime. And unfortunately, we probably, at least in our lifetimes, we probably won't see this because people suck. But like, it should just be normal, right? You know, like you know, whether you're straight, you're gay, you're bi, whatever. Like, it should just be normal. Like, it should all be celebrated. Like, it shouldn't be like, oh my gosh, there's people walking down the street. Like, I've had to deal with that with like working with people before, and like, you know, I try to stick up for a lot of friends, just people, any sort of community, myself, and it still sucks that you see that a lot, you know. It's disappointing in that sense, but you know, and that's exactly why we want you on, because we want you to tell people your experiences, you know. So tying into this, it is Pride Month, so there are a lot of people who try to cash in on Pride Month, as do any other, you know, celebrated thing that we have going on. So, like, what are some moves you want to see companies in the movie industry make to highlight inclusivity, or, you know, specifically for marginalized groups as a whole, or specifically just for LGBTQIA2+ community? Like, what do you want to see?
I think there are a lot of things that need to be done, and I think there have been a lot of moves made. I mean, even just like watching rom-coms and movies from like the early 2000s and early 2010s, and then watching movies being made now, there's a big difference in the types of characters that we're having. Like, I mean, early 2000s, there's not a gay person in sight. There were gay people like in the early 2000s, spoiler alert, but they weren't in movies and they weren't in TV shows. And when they were, it was a very certain, the gay best friend, or like the wacky, or like making fun of the mean lesbian or whatever it is. And I think to a certain extent we have started moving away from that somewhat. But there are still a lot of times in which gay characters are tokenized. And they're portrayed in a way that doesn't really feel like an authentic queer experience. It feels like we're taking gay characters and putting them into straight roles. And that's pretty shitty. One of the biggest things that I would like to see, and I would like to see this in the next few years, is actual gay people playing gay characters. So trans people playing trans characters, and then LGBTQIA people playing LGBT characters. It's really I love the show Station 19. I love it so much. There is one gay actor on that show, or one person that is out as gay, I should say. There are, I can think of off the top of my head, 5 gay characters in that show. The one gay actor plays a dead character, and he's only there in flashbacks. That's so aggravating.
That is
right?
Upsetting.
Yeah, facepalm.
Yeah, that is upsetting. Like, why could you not like cast one of the straight people playing a gay guy to be like the dead person, and actually have somebody portray who they are? You know what I mean?
Right. And I think the frustrating part about it is that we don't just want gay characters. We want queer stories written by queer people, told by queer people. That is what the representation is. And right now it's just, oh, we heard you're upset that we don't have queer stories, so we didn't change anything. We didn't hire gay people. We didn't hire queer writers. We just wrote in a character that has a girlfriend. You happy? Yeah. And it's like, yeah, we are. It's cool to see, you know, a bisexual woman or a lesbian or whatever on TV. But at the same time, there is more that can be done, that should be done, and that we want to see be done. So that's one thing that I think is really essential. And also I think even more so than from the sexuality standpoint, I think from a gender perspective, it is very important that when we're telling trans stories and when we're telling stories of gender fluid people, gender queer people, gender nonconforming, non-binary, whatever it is, that we're hiring actors who identify as that gender. I love Eddie Redmayne. I have not seen the movie that he was in, the something girl, the Danish girl, I think is what it was.
I haven't seen it either.
Where he plays a transgender woman. Mm-hmm. It is a huge issue that he played a transgender character. And then afterwards, whenever he was asked about it, he was like, "Oh, well, I won't take a role like that again." But he did, and he took the money from that. And I think there's a really big conversation around that, because then part of the conversation after that and after instances like that is, okay, well, if Eddie Redmayne hadn't taken it, the casting directors probably would have just hired another man who identifies, a cisgender man to play a transgender woman. And so there are some things that can be done there in terms of within the acting community. This, like, if you're offered a role like that, you say, I cannot accept this role, and this is why. This is the role of a transgender woman, and it should be played as such. So those are some kind of specific things, but they're big issue things. When we're talking about queer representation that absolutely need to be met like yesterday,
Yeah, absolutely. And
I also think there are...
Oh no, go ahead.
This damn delay, I'm sorry.
It's all good.
But another thing is something I always notice in shows. Like I always notice if there are queer characters, if there are queer stories, if what the dialogue is like. So I've been watching on my block, right? And it's so fun because they have these teenagers that are like engaging in all sorts of different conversations. And I think they're getting ready for a quinceañera. And one of the little guys is, oh no, it was a gender reveal party. That's what it was. It was a gender reveal party. And he's like, why do we need to have a gender reveal? Why can't the baby just tell us what gender it is when it comes of age, like when it starts to understand gender? And I was like, hell yeah. At the same time, I was like, on my block, you don't have a single gay character.
Yeah.
You don't have a single trans character.
That was some forced...
Not a single one.
That sounds like some forced wokeness right there.
That was something you wrote into the script because it was edgy and cool and you knew that the young kids were going to like it. And I did, because those are the conversations that we have, but we're having those with queer people and with all sorts of different people from different backgrounds, Also, I don't believe that you're in LA and you don't have any gay people.
Yeah. I lived in San Fernando.
Are you in?
Yeah. I lived in San Fernando. There's no way. Like, that is complete exclusion on that part. That says nothing about inclusion.
I grew up in a super conservative part of the Inland Empire, Riverside, which, just super conservative. And I knew so many queer people, different genders. I remember one time I was at my friend's house, and they had someone staying with them, and there were wigs all over the bathroom. And I was like, Mom, why are there wigs all over the bathroom? And she was like, oh, he's a drag queen. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. A drag queen. And it was so casual. I didn't have any more questions. I was like, oh, yes.
Yeah, normalize it.
The drag queens. And that, and it was normal. And it is. Because, even though we were in a super conservative part, there were lots of queer people. And that's just how it was. I mean, I can't say that there wasn't discrimination, because there totally was.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, we were there.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really aggravating too, is that I think that it doesn't always have to be like a huge to-do. Like, you don't have to have like 5 gay characters. I mean, like, that would be wonderful, and I don't think that should be ridiculous. But like, it should just be casual, you know? Like, you shouldn't have to force it. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's you know, I think one of the best gay roles I've seen personally is Lafayette from True Blood, you know? But I mean, again, that kind of falls into another lane where that actor was also not gay. He was straight, you know, so that is inherently a problem. But
Yes.
I like that character a lot, you know. I do. But still, it is a problem.
Did you watch The Haunting of Bly Manor?
No, I didn't watch Bly. I did watch Hill House. I need to watch Bly, but I think I'm just gonna hold out and just wait for this next October and just let it be one of my October shows, you know? So
Screaming, you have to watch Bly.
Okay.
I watched Bly. Me.
yeah.
No horror bitch watched
Yeah.
Bly. And my mom, who is even more no horror than I am, she watched Bly.
Okay.
And it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
My mom at first was like, Genesee, this is scary. You didn't say it was like, you said it wasn't going to be that scary. And I was like, emphasis on the that, Mom. It's not
Yeah.
that scary.
Yeah, it's not
It was.
that.
It definitely. It felt more to me. Yeah, and that's when my mom calls me an asshole. You know, she's like, screw you, Jen. So Bly Manor. I feel this isn't a spoiler. I don't think, because if you've been on the internet, I feel like you have somewhat idea of some of the themes that happen in Bly. Bly Manor does not just have queer characters. It has an authentic ass queer love story that is honestly felt game changing to me in the lens of media. I mean, Bly Manor got it. Bly Manor fucking got it.
Hey, look, an authentic queer love story that isn't just vampires. You know?
Right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you
And
know,
it's not a coming out story either.
yeah. Yeah.
That's really unique too. I enjoy a good coming out story. I think they can be really beneficial, but I understand there's a big thing in the queer community of being fatigued by all the goddamn coming out movies and TV shows, because there are a lot of them. When we talk about queer stories, it's often a coming out story. And it's like, yes, that is a really important part of our experience, but it's not the only part.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, we fall in love, we fall out of love, we have job issues.
Yeah. I mean,
You know, there's a lot more than just coming out.
well, you're as a great friend of the show, you are a person, you know, that just happens to be gay. You experience all the same things that people experience. There's nothing different about it. And if there's anybody that watches or listens to this, and like, I hope that you realize that being gay doesn't make you different as a person. You are just a person that is gay. It's, you know, and people always, like, I remember growing up, right? And I remember people saying all sorts of shit on Xbox Live and like using it as an insult, and you still see people to this day where that mentality has still carried over. You know, where like when something shitty happens, they'll say, "Oh, that's, you know, fill in the blank," right? And it wasn't. I feel like it wasn't until like the last maybe 10 years where movie studios were finally like, "Oh, wait, we can put gay people in our movies and them not just be a token joke." You know what I'm saying? Like, it's because it was always a negative connotation, and now people are trying to cash in on it. Hence, you know, actors playing roles that they shouldn't be playing. And, you know, that falls in line with, you know, deaf people. I wasn't until I saw Godzilla versus Kong where they had an actual deaf teenage girl play a deaf teenage character, you know. But like moving on, and I know you were just talking about how not everything needs to be a coming out story, but I still have questions.
I knew this was coming next, so don't worry. I'm prepared.
So obviously coming out is a big event. It's that moment where you finally realize who you are, right? What's a piece of advice you would give anybody in the LGBTQIA2+? It's gotten much longer since I first learned about this, so bear with me. I'm sorry. But what can you give the youth that are currently navigating these waters? Like what is, you know, what is some words of encouragement that you could pass on to them?
So first, I want to make a comment on what you said about like gay people just being people, because I think that is so true. And I also think that at the same time that we are just people who happen to have a certain sexuality, there are certain experiences that are very unique to being queer, to having a different sexuality from heterosexuality, and from having different gender identities, etc. And that can be a really difficult experience, depending on where you are and who your community is and what your experience is. That can be very isolating. I live in Portland now, and I have a wonderful queer community. I mean, not just in my partner and the family that we've created, but like my friends. I have so many queer friends and so many straight allies who are very encouraging and have been very encouraging to me. Before that, I lived in pretty rural, isolated places that I didn't have a large community. I didn't really have a queer community at all, and I didn't realize how much I needed that until I had it, and I didn't realize how isolated I felt until I had that, you know? And I think that that's something that is important to validate, and that it ties in with coming out. So, the biggest advice that I can give to anyone, and I think about this a lot, is that you don't owe your coming out to anyone. There's a lot of rhetoric around coming out. There's a lot of discussion in, you know, like I was just talking about, in movies and TV shows and all sorts of things about when do you come out? How do you come out? Why do you come out? Who do you tell? Do you tweet it? Do you like have a sit down conversation with your parents? And I think that in anything, but especially something as sensitive as your identity and who you are, because it's a very important part of who you are as a person, and sharing that with the world should be completely up to you. And however you want to or don't want to share that with the world is up to you. For some people, it is not safe to come out to their family or to their friends or to their church or whatever it may be. And if you're feeling that, and you're feeling that isolation, and you're feeling like, wow, I need to get this off my chest, but I am worried that I will be in danger, or I will not be loved, or I will not be accepted if I tell this to people, that is real. That is a real concern, and that is a valid concern. At the same time, I want to encourage you that there are people in this world who will love you and who will celebrate you and who will accept you. And if you're sitting at home right now listening to this, welcome to the queer community. If you are sitting here and being like, oh shit, I might not be heterosexual. How do I know? I love you, you baby gay, and I hope that one day you can find all of the love and acceptance in whatever way you want to find it. And sometimes you can be happily surprised by how people react, and sometimes you aren't, and sometimes you're thoroughly disappointed. And there are a lot of emotions that come with each of that. And unfortunately, no matter how many people I have in my life that love and accept me, the ones that don't still hurt like a motherfucker, you know? It's a really painful pain. And that doesn't really ever go away. So I don't know. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, I can totally see that from an outside perspective. You know, obviously I will never know what that feels like, you know, but I can totally understand that. There's shitty people out there that do terrible things to people that have different, you know, ideals and different ways of living and just different sexualities. So I can only imagine what it could be like to be scared of, to just, you know, tell people who you are, you know. It's a big thing, and it's had such a negative connotation on that for no reason, just simply because it's different. And I think that's what I would like to see, is just people be more accepting. Like, I have some shitty family members that I no longer talk to just because I'm that one guy that's, you know, that's straight in the corner. But when I hear family members say something, you know, whether it be a family event or something, that they hate me. So because of how I call them out on it, you know what I mean? It's just, it is what it is. But, you know, I love you, Genesee.
But I do want to say too, thank you. And I do want to say too that there are different ways and kind of, I don't know, not levels, but extents to which you can choose to come out. I have so many friends who are out to their close friends or to their friends in general, but will probably never come out to their family, because they know what the reaction is going to be, and they don't want to have to go through that. And that's totally valid, and that doesn't make your identity any less valid. You know, and I have friends who sit with me and we drink and we talk about girls, and it's so fun, and we talk about all of the beauty in our identities and the complexity of that and the politics surrounding it and all of these things, and have these wonderful, intense conversations. And that's something that they can't share with other people in their lives, and that is okay. There are people out there who are out in all different capacities. I am one of those loud and proud gays. I wear my Be Gay, Do Crime hat to the farmer's market with my lovely female fiance on my arm, walking our tiny pug. And it is clear as day that we are some sapphic mofos. But that's not the only way to be out and to be proud. There are many, many different ways to do that. And that's all valid.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. So this is like definitely more geared towards a personal question of mine, you know, because I would love to know this. Like, what's a piece of advice that you would give me, you know, or anybody else wanting to be an ally and support the gay LGBTQIA2+ community in a real way? Like, what can I do that could be more beneficial?
That's a wonderful question. I think there are a lot of things to do. First of all, if you have gay people in your life, queer people in your life, defer to them. You know, ask your friends. Engage in that. I think that a lot of people are scared to shy away from conversations around any type of prejudice, right? Whether it be around sexuality, race, ethnicity, religion. For fear of saying the wrong thing. We do say the wrong thing, and we do fuck up, and we won't be able to truly be an ally and truly be helpful to the communities around us unless we talk about it and we ask questions. My very best friend in this whole world, God bless his little soul, is a straight cisgender man. Which is, I think it's hilarious, because when I tell that to people are like, really? You talk to men? I was like, yeah, I do. I do love men. I love people. And hi.
Yeah.
Right? And there is still also, I think that there can also, being a queer woman, being a queer bisexual woman, who has dated many cisgender men, who have treated me and my identity very poorly. I think that it's easy to get jaded, right? And it's easy to be like, oh, men suck. And, they do. So do women. People suck.
Yeah.
And my best friend, love him. Yeah, that's what it is. Love him to death. He comes to me and he's like, hey, Genesee, am I allowed to use the word queer? Right? And I'm like, wow, fuck. Thank you so much for asking. You know, no, you're not. You know, and then we can talk about why, and we can talk about the complexities around words and reclaiming slurs and things like that. So that's one of the biggest things is ask questions. If you have questions, if you're not sure, ask. And then another big thing, just like kind of on a general level, is don't make assumptions. And so I'll allow a little bit of background for that. So, or provide, I should say. I'll provide some background.
Yeah.
A month or two ago, my fiance and I were shopping for fancy cookware at the La Cruzette outlet, which is a gay joke. If you don't know, that is like, we were like a walking little stereotype. We were like in this La Cruzette, like, and we have so much La Cruzette in our home. It's ridiculous. We do not have money. We are not rich, but we out here and we spend the little money we have on this expensive ass cookware because we love these stone cast fucking pans.
Oh my gosh.
And we were looking for a present for her mom for Mother's Day. Yeah. And so we're like looking around the store and looking at all these different like casserole dishes and all of this stuff, you know, domestic bliss at its finest. And the sales associate is kind of watching us, right? And we're holding hands and I'm like, oh my gosh, your mom would love this, or oh, but I don't think she would like that color, and all of this stuff, right? And I don't think you've ever met Naomi. My love is not quiet. She is so loud.
Yeah.
You had a short conversation with her just now. She was on the other end of the room and you could hear her just fine, couldn't you?
Yep.
I bless her soul. Her whole family is so loud. So I know that this woman in this La Cruzette outlet can hear our entire conversation because neither of us is quiet. And and so we move around the store and she comes up to us and asks, oh, how are you two doing? I'm like, well, we're fine. Would you mind holding this up at the counter for us? Yada, yada. And she goes, are you two sisters? Why? Because, and the thing is that you can read a lot in tone. Yeah, no, I know. It's ridiculous. You can read a lot in tone. I knew she wasn't asking us if we were sisters. She was asking us if we're gay. First of all, you don't need to ask anyone if they're gay. It's none of your damn business. Second of all, if you really, 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 really want to know, just ask us if we're gay. It would be so much less offensive than you asking us if we're sisters.
Yeah.
And so I was like, and you know, I mean, it was fine. I was like, oh no, I'm her fiance, and I show her the ring, and I'm like, if I was her sister, you'd be able to tell because they all look and sound exactly the same. And, you know, and she kind of chuckled and she's like, oh, that's sweet. And I'm like, yeah, I know, I am. But that, I mean, it's months later and I'm still thinking about that because it's frustrating. Like those little things add up, you know, and like my fiance was buying this shirt for me at the Portland store and, it's a rainbow. It is a Pride Portland shirt, right? And the sales associate like is asking because she bought 3 of them, and so she's like, "Oh wow, you're buying a lot of those." And she's like, "Oh well, yeah, you know, I had to buy one for myself and my sister and my fiance." And the sales associate asks her because I was volunteering that day, and she goes, "Oh, where is he? Is he at work?" And Naomi was like, oh no, she's volunteering at OMSI today. And it's like, we don't think about those things. And it's fine. Like we all make mistakes. We all get people's pronouns wrong. But it is also kind of like you're selling Pride merch and you're not even considering a possibility where this lovely, beautiful young woman in front of you is marrying a woman or someone who uses they, them pronouns. Or what have you. The only option in your mind was that she was engaged to a man. Same with the La Cruzette. Like, you know, a month or two later, they come out with a Pride pot that has these adorable little rainbow hearts all over it. And if it wasn't $400, it would be in our kitchen right now.
Yeah.
But it was so cute. And we were sitting there looking at this rainbow La Crusette pot. Like, your company is not doing anything to support LGBTQ populations, right? Your employees are not being trained on how to use gender neutral language, or how to not ask if you're sisters. Yeah. When it would be really gross if I was like, if my body language was pointed to my sister the way it points to Naomi. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's another big thing that allies can do, is try to be more aware of the things that we assume and the language that we use, and try to be intentional about that.
Yeah.
I do my best, unless someone like talks to me and has a conversation about their gender, or like uses pronouns to describe themselves. It's pretty easy to infer how people identify themselves. I either will ask someone their pronouns specifically, or I've gotten in the habit of using they them pronouns most of the time.
Yeah.
And I still slip up. I'm sure I misgender people. It happens.
Yep. I
you were saying
I do it the same. I slip up on at times. I try to use they a lot in when I'm talking about somebody a lot. It even if they're not gay, you know what I mean? I just try to say they, because they is just an over encompassing term that describes someone else, right? And so that's something that I've learned, and my partner has helped me with that personally, because she is bi as well, and and I've definitely learned a lot, and there's always room to learn, and I think everybody should be asking those questions and talk to their friends, talk to people they're acquainted with. If you have a coworker too that you are fond of, and they are, ask them. I'm sure they would actually appreciate it. And again, I'm still learning, so I appreciate you doing the show with me and talking about all this with me, because I try to do the best that I can, but I know I can always do better. You know what I'm saying? And so I appreciate it. Thank you. Now,
absolutely.
I have one big question for you, and this is a question we like to ask all of our creators that come on with us. What is one thing that you think that is vastly and commonly overlooked when it comes to being LGBTQIA2+ that you want everybody to know about?
One thing? There's never just one thing.
The world is your oyster. My time is your time. Give me a couple. Give me your two most important things that popped into your head that is important, that needs to be said.
That needs to be said about the LGBTQIA+ community. Okay. First thing, I'd say this is probably the most important thing, is that we're a community. We're not like a cookie cutter. Right? Like we're all different. We're a community, and we encompass a vast, diverse array of people and identities and experiences. There are shitty gay people, and there are cool gay people, just like any other thing. The LGBTQIA community also encompasses people of not just like sexualities, but different gender identities, and different ways of experiencing attraction. I think that's something that often gets left out, is that the LGBTQIA community encompasses so much. It encompasses sexuality, which is who you're attracted to, right? It includes gender identity, which is how you identify your gender, and it includes how you experience attraction. So that's like being asexual or aromantic. So asexual is you don't experience sexual attraction and you don't have the desire to have sex, and that's a really simplified version of something that's very complex. It's something that I don't think people realize, is that you can be aromantic but not asexual, and vice versa. And you can be heterosexual and asexual, and you can be so many things. There's so many different ways to experience all of these things, and they're so complex. And And I remember when Pete Buttigieg put in his ticket for the last presidential race, and people were like, well, yeah, he's gay, but he's shitty. And I'm like, yeah, he's a politician. Mm-hmm. You know, and it seemed like surprising to people that you could be a shitty gay person. And I was like, we're not Gandhi.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Inherently,
just because we had,
shitty.
like, we put thought into... Inherently, people are shitty.
Yeah.
I do my best to be a good person and to be thoughtful and to love everybody. I'm still an asshole. You know? Like, it happens.
Yeah.
But so I wish people would grasp that like being gay doesn't make you a bad person, but it also doesn't make you a good person. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Yeah. I think that's it. That's what I'm feeling right now.
Perfect. Mm-hmm. I mean, words from the harlot's mouth, right?
Yeah.
No, you know, and that was just mostly following you calling yourself an asshole. But hey, I'm gonna say this: you've never. I'm not making any assumptions, but you've never been an asshole here.
I'm glad to know that. Yeah. I do worry sometimes if I'm being an asshole on an accident.
Hey, our motto is "Don't be an asshole," and you've never been an asshole, so you Gucci. Genesee, thank you so much. Again, can you remind all the beautiful people out there where to follow you and where to see your show?
Yes. Let's Get Bitchin'. You can follow us on TikTok. We have a TikTok. Ooh. Oh my God. It's kind of all right. It's not great right now, but it's kind of all right. You can also follow us on Instagram and Patreon. We have bonus content on Patreon and merch. Ooh. We have fun stickers and shit on Patreon. I know. And you can listen to us on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all the shit.
Hell yeah. And I'm going to be sure to make sure I am following you on all these platforms because I, unfortunately, am not, and I want to start listening to your content. So, with that being said, Genesee, this has been the Good Kraken Podcast, a show for nerdy, marginalized people, giving you the video game and pop media news, reviews, and discussions that you wanted to hear every Tuesday at 7 p.m. and Saturday at 1 p.m., except for on occasions when we want to do it at 7 p.m. Right here at twitch.tv/Good Kraken Show. If you enjoyed the show, you can support us by subscribing below, going to our YouTube channel by clicking the link in the About section of our Twitch channel and clicking that bell and big red button, or by subscribing to our podcast channel by searching Good Kraken and leaving a review. But until next time, don't make assumptions. And Genesee?
Bye. Thank you. I love you all. Happy Rainbow Month.
Happy Rainbow Month, y'all. Have a good night.